Go for it. You're good. You're live.
All right. All right. Thanks for having me. This is Chris Zukowski. I'm giving a talk today called How to Market a Game on Steam in 2020. So first, I just want to say thanks for coming to the talk, and thanks for Jay and the crew for having me. This is great to be here. So thanks for being along. So I get this question a lot. It's basically, how do I become Among Us? We want our game to be that big. Among Us is big. How do we do it? We saw they did this one thing. Will that work for us? I get that all the time. And the thing is, from the outside, understanding success, it's kind of like a magic show. It's just like somebody did something magic. How do I do it? And it seems easy enough. Like you go to a magic show, right? And you see this guy and he walks across the stage, and then he like raises a gloved hand, white glove, swirls it around once, gets his hat, puts his gloved hand right into the hat, pulls out a rabbit, like an actual rabbit. And you're like, I can do that. I saw that. I know exactly what he did. So you go to the store, you look on Amazon, you find the exact brand of white glove this guy has. Same one, same suit with the cummerbund. I don't know what that cut is on the suit, but you get those tails. You figure it out. You get the exact same cut. You practice walking across the stage. You get the exact same stride as that guy. And you even like grow a nice mustache. You're like, this, I see it. It kind of like tapers up at the ends. I got it. I did it. So you try it. You go on stage. You walk at the right pace that guy did. You get your white glove. You swirl around just like that guy did. You even go twice around just to make sure. You do an extra spin. You reach into the hat and it's empty. And you are like, WTF. Indiepocalypse, too much shovelware. I'm going to go back, get a real job again. What happened? Guys, I'm here to tell you, it was a magic trick. It's all fake. He doesn't actually produce a rabbit in there. Let me show you. This is how the magic trick actually works. You didn't realize you were going to get a lesson in magic. There's a rabbit, like a real one, in a bag under the table. It doesn't have anything to do with the white glove. It's not a magic white glove. It's just a piece of cloth. It doesn't matter. And the reason he actually swirls his hand like this is to distract your eyes so that you look at the glove and you don't see his other hand putting the rabbit physically in the hat. Guys, it's a trick. It's just a trick. It's just a trick. And when I see indies, I see a lot of them doing stuff that is, they think it's that. They think that's the most important thing, like the swirling white glove. And Twitter, I consider kind of one of these white glove things. Actually, if you look at Innersloth, I looked at their Twitter. This is the original tweet when Among Us actually launched in 2018. This is the tweet that says, "Go play Among Us. It's this new game we got." It got 6 retweets. 6, right? Let me tell you, the thing that actually kind of kicked off the current boom of it, which I consider the actual like rabbit under the table, was they did this thing on Steam called the Daily Deal. They worked it out with the Steam folks. They got a ton of wish lists, and then a couple weeks later, they put it on 75% discount, which was the biggest thing they've ever had. And that kicked off. A streamer discovered it based on that, and then the rest is history. Now they're like, everybody talks about it. And so modern gaming is all marketing here since all time, but there's a lot of things that look like it's the most important thing. You think it's the white glove, like you're like, the way he swirled his hand in that white glove, that's the most important thing. But it's not actually. It's the real magic is, the reason is because there's a freaking rabbit under the table that he literally put in there. It's not a magic trick. I mean, it's not literal magic, it's a trick. You just hit a rabbit under there that you put in the hat. So in today's talk, I'm going to show you all the stuff that's kind of like white glove. You think it's the thing that's magic, but then the reality is like, no, it's just a literal rabbit under the table. They just pop it in the hat. We're going to show you this. Okay, so outside it seems like important. White glove, rabbit under the table. Behind the scenes, it's actually what's important. So anytime you see them, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, this is me. I think I'm wearing the same shirt today. So brand consistency shirt. I'm an indie game designer. Turn to adventuremountain.com on my games. But I also a marketing and strategy consultant. I help companies figure out how to work on Steam, how things work, how to do all this stuff that I'm going to talk to you today. Howtomarketagame.com is my site. You can go to it. You can learn about stuff. I blog on there. Every week I have a new article about how Steam works and how indie game marketing works. You can join that. Here's my game, one screen platformer. It's on Steam. This is kind of where I first learned all these, how Steam actually functions, where the rabbit actually is located. I also consult for companies like Beta Dwarf. I've consulted for Big Sugar, which is an indie publisher, and Kit Fox Games, help them out with their mailing list. Steam, how marketing works on Steam. Let's talk about it. There was this really great article by Simon Carless, great guy. I put his URL on the bottom there. You should definitely check him out. Simon Carless on Twitter. He runs also a weekly, actually, he blogs more than I do, about how Steam works. And he had this great article about this game called Riftbreaker, 250,000 Steam wish lists. If you don't know, that is a whole lot. That is more than most games get, and how they got there. And he kind of broke down exactly what they did. And the basic summary of this is Steam is a long-term campaign. They started back in 2019, and this is a graph of their wish lists and when they got them. It's all about getting wish lists. And it's not just like one quick thing that you get. And so they're just like this perfect use case of how this works. And I'm going to kind of pop in a little bit and show what they did and kind of how they got to where they are. It's a really fascinating story. I recommend you follow Simon Carless and check it out. But basically, anything with Steam, it's a long process. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is what you need to do before development, during development, and then this post-launch period. Because marketing doesn't just happen like the 3 weeks before you launch or 1 day before you launch. Please don't do that. So I'm going to show you all throughout this talk these different things that you need to do. Okay, so let's start with before development. I'm going to put that right there. And the most important thing is anybody actually going to buy your game before you start it or get too far? And as a marketing consultant, I get these questions like, what should I tweet about? What hashtag should I use? Should I use emojis in my subject line? Should it be the fire emoji or the dancing girl emoji? Which one should it be? And you know what? Those are all white glove questions. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is here. Let me show you. Here's where the rabbit is. Okay, there's something in products, anything like phones, computers, anything. It's called the marketing mix. And basically, all marketing breaks down to promotion, product, place, and price. And guess what? All those other things that we were just talking about, like whether what you should tweet about or anything, that's all promotion. That's the top tip of the iceberg that most people see. The most important things are actually the bottom parts, the product, the place, and the price. And as an example, like if you were saying, oh, I'm going to make a visual novel on Steam for $20, that's right there is your product, your place, and your price. Steam is the marketplace where you're selling it. That's basically how it works. Not that hard. It sounds obvious, but you got to get there. And here's the thing I'm trying to argue is product, place, and price are so much more important than the promotion. I study how games are sold on Steam, and during this fall Steam festival, there was one in the summer. They just had one in fall. Developers put their games up, and people wishlisted it. Now, wishlists are a good indicator of whether somebody likes a game, and so I went out and I surveyed as many developers who participated in that, and I said, how many wish lists did your game get? A lot of developers really helpful, about 100 of them gave me their data, and I put it in a nice chart, and I broke it down by genre. These are the median number of wish lists per genre on Steam. Now, as you can see, there are definite favorites for the Steam audience. There are some that didn't get very many, and a whole bunch for strategy. Now, this is a smaller sample size, but I've expanded this out and done other research, and it holds pretty true in the whole. There's strategy comes out on top, simulation, RPG are the top favorites for Steam. And then those other ones, platformers, puzzle games, not so great. By the way, I make platformers. So if you are here making a platformer and you are asking, should I put emojis in my tweet or my subject line? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many emojis you put in there. It's just not going to kind of stack up to the fact that strategy far outstrips what people want to play on Steam. It's just the general tastes of the audience. And this is why I say the product, place, and price are the most important things. This is what you should be really concerned about. The promotion is just, it's a slight thing. It's the white glove. So when people ask, when should I start marketing? Well, the moment you decided to say, oh, I'm going to make a platformer game, you've decided most of your marketing. It's already set. The die has been cast already. You're way past figuring out when you should start marketing. You've already done it, buddy. So this is how we're going to kind of go through it. You might say like, oh, why doesn't everybody just make a strategy game since they're so popular? But we do need some variety, and not everybody likes to make strategy games. And kind of you have to play this game. This kind of was proposed by Ryan Clark of Brace Yourself Games, but it's very common in product as well, like any product development. And you really have to assess like the games you like to make, the games you like to play, I should say, the games you're able to make. Like, yeah, you might like to make MMOs, but let's be honest, you're not going to be able to make an MMO. If you're listening to me talk, I guarantee you can't make an MMO. And then the last one is the games that the market actually wants. And the very magical overlap between those three circles are where we're going to play. That is the magic overlap zone where it's recommended to make a game if you're interested in making a profit or running a business. Now, if you're an artist, or if you're just doing this as a hobby, or you're just trying to exert yourself creatively, this chart doesn't apply to you. Go off, make your game that you want to make that's in your heart. That's fine. But if you're trying to, feed a family, actually run a business or something, you really do have to concern yourself with this and find that magic overlap zone, okay? And those are the product, place, and price that are so important. These are the things that are that rabbit under the table, not how many emojis you put in the subject line. That stuff doesn't actually matter that much. Okay, this is what I was talking about. I did an analysis of every game that's ever released on Steam, every single one. And I looked at the tags to see what genres they were. And here's the resulting graph. As you can see, there are a lot of puzzle games and a lot of platformer games. Now, games could fall in multiple categories. Like you can have a puzzle platformer, which means it's tagged with both. And as you can see, that's a lot of games on there. But then also using reviews, you can estimate how many sales a game has by looking at the reviews. You can cross-reference this, and guess what? You get this nice curve. That's the red is the median earnings by estimating how many reviews. There's a complicated algorithm to do that, and I go into it in other blogs. But this is kind of what you see. You see this like almost supply and demand curve 101, right? Economics 101. There's a lot of puzzle platformers, but they don't earn very much. But there's a real hunger for building games, city builders, computer RPGs, 4X games, Souls-likes. These are really in demand, and players are willing to pay a lot and buy them a lot that are opportunities. And I'm not saying everybody needs to do building games or everybody needs to make a 4X game. I'm just saying you need to be aware of what the possibilities are so you don't sink into this. And again, if you're making art and you're trying to say, hey, don't market test my art, man, this is my soul. I totally hear you. If you're trying to make art, go for it. I totally do it. And if you want to make a platformer game, all I'm asking is that you look at the numbers so that you can assess the risk. Am I taking a risk that's like 2-to-1 odds, 37-to-1 odds, or am I playing the lottery where it's like, let's face it, you're not going to earn your money back. And that's okay if you're not interested in earning your money back. But I just want you to understand what the market wants. What does Steam want out of this? So what happens if, okay, I'm making a puzzle platformer, we're 3 years in, that's okay. I'm not saying ditch everything. I'm just saying maybe it's time to like assess, how much more development time, maybe cut features, try and get it out into the market as soon as possible, because you might not get that return on investment. The marketplace just isn't there to support those type of games as much. It's a bigger risk, as I was saying. It's the lottery card versus the coin flip. It's good to go into these things understanding what the marketplace in Steam is looking for. So again, if you're making those puzzle games, just be aware, be conscious of this. Okay, so let's say you have determined the type of game you're going to make. You are making something and you've determined through some market research, yes, this is the genre that Steam wants, and you start production period. I'm going to kind of go through the process of actually getting your game marketed on Steam. This is this giant middle, long winter in the valley of development here. So one thing about Steam, you hear of old timers and a lot of people who look back on the rosy days is saying, back before Greenlight, I think Greenlight started in 2015, there used to be this period where there was curation. Steam, the people at Valve, the employees at Valve would like say, your game's in or out. And they had this halcyon days of keeping the riffraff out, the shovelware and pornography games, keep those games out of Steam. And it used to be clear, back before Greenlight, you would submit your game, you would like email somebody at Valve and you'd say, can I get my game on Steam? And they would be like, yes, you are in, or they would give you a nice clean email that said, nope, sorry, go home. I don't want your game on Steam. And it was nice, clear, cut and dry. And you could be like, okay, All right. And that usually if you had a platformer that wasn't as up to the market standards, that's when you would learn this is not the type of game that will do well on Steam. The secret to the magic trick is, and here's the thing is, yes, the algorithms changed and anybody can upload a game for $100. You can get your game up on Steam. The secret here, the little rabbit under the table is there actually still is curation. It's just, you can't see the gatekeepers. There's not like a clean email that you get. It's just this kind of like passive aggressive shadowing that you kind of get if your game is not what the curators would have wanted. And let me show you. So back in the Steam Greenlight days, it was clear. There was like a bouncer at the door that said, you get in this hot club, you're in. Or no, buddy, go to Denny's or something. Get out of here. You're not our type. Nowadays, what happens with Steam is there's no bouncer. You can go into the club, but basically what happens now is if your game isn't quite what Steam wants, the algorithm kind of figures it out and they just kind of shove you to this little back area of Steam where you don't get a lot of traffic. You're not entirely sure you're in that area, but your game just doesn't sell as well. And it's not exactly that, but it's not so much that there's somebody telling you no, it's just that you don't get as much traffic as you could. Now, and here's why I say this. In 2018, 2019, there was a big algorithm change. And Steam wrote this article that nobody read. I think I was like one of the 5 people that read it. I linked to it so that you could be a 6th or 7th person to read it. But they did this comparison. They said, we just changed our algorithm, and everybody was complaining. All the indies were complaining because they lost a lot of sales. And so they said, we ran the numbers. When we made the change, and they took all the games from 2018 and all the games from 2019, and they overlaid them and compared revenue. And they said, look, everybody, look at how many more people are earning money. The green is all the games that earned more money compared 2018 to 2019. And they said, look, 2/3 of people on Steam earned more money. Look at that. Isn't that great? Look at how big the green area is. And everybody was like, yeah, that's great. But then I looked at it, I was like, well, what about that orange area on the left there? What's the deal with that? And you'll see this one little inflection point right there. That is the magic gatekeeper. That's the rabbit under the table. That is the gatekeeper that you have to get past. Basically, you have to get through this hidden gatekeeper that nobody talks about. You have to be on that side of the chart where the algorithm favors you, where it gives you all the traffic, it gets you all the good stuff, and really gives your game that visibility and sales that you want, versus the kind of background closet that the background closet of the club where the bouncer kind of like ushers the riffraff. So you want to be on the good side where there's a nice gatekeeper that kind of ushers you into the good area. So the secret is you got to get as many wish lists as possible. And I'll show you how and why. So if you're new to Steam, if you've never been on there, the wish list, there's this one button that's on every page. Basically, we need people to click that add to your wish list button. And the reason is, it's like, that's all my job is. My job as a marketing consultant is to get people to click that add to wish list button. It sounds so simple, but what happens is when a shopper clicks the add to wish list button, when your game launches, they will get an email and it says, hey, this game you wished for is on sale. It's an email. It's weird. It comes in from your email box and it says, do this. And there's a little button that says view your wish list. And a lot of people click that actually. And when they click that, there's a very, very high probability that they will buy it. That's just the way this email works. It's a very powerful email. And what happens is people buy the game. It's a good trigger. It triggers people to go buy the game. And here's the thing is a lot of people, you'll hear, anybody who knows a lot about Steam, they'll talk about wish lists all the time. Like, oh, I need to get more wish lists. The thing is the algorithm doesn't actually care about wish lists. It cares about the money that's generated from that email. That's how it is. Like, it's just about the money. So let me show you. For example, let's say we had game A that got 100,000 wish lists. And they, for whatever reason, because of the type of game and the way they marketed their game, they got a 10% conversion rate, which means when they launched, they got 10,000 sales on that day. Versus game B that had 10,000 wish lists, and because they had great marketing and their game was even more attractive or whatever, they also got they instead of getting a 10% conversion rate, got 100% conversion rate. All right? Both game A and game B got 10,000 sales that day on launch day. In Steam's eye, game A and B are equally awesome. That's because they only care about the sales and the dollars. I'm also assuming game A and B are the same price. They just care about the dollars. They don't care that game A poorly converted their 100,000 or that game B did awesome on the conversion. They just care about the money. This is confirmed over and over by Valve. So yes, we care about wish lists, but it's because it primes everybody to be so to convert to sales. Now, different games and different marketing, sometimes people buy ads and sometimes they get wish lists that don't convert as well. That's harder to tell. And it's kind of the fun and joy of Steam is you never know what kind of wish list you've collected, whether high quality folks or not high quality folks. And quality, I don't mean personally quality. I just mean whether they click the buy button when they get that email that says games on sale. But again, it all comes down to the money when they buy the game. So again, games are equivalent. It's just about the money. Okay, so again, how many wish lists do we need to get past the secret gatekeeper? Again, it's not so much the wish list, but there is a little bit of a trick here with Steam. I don't know why I highlighted the game called Sex with Stalin. I just grabbed a screenshot from Steam. I just realized that's a really weird screenshot to take. Anyway, so there's this section on Steam front page. If you get popular upcoming, you can see it on Steam. If you go over to Steam, you scroll down, there's this little section called popular upcoming. Typically about a week before your game launches, if you have about 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists leading into the week before you launch, you show up on this magic section here. And this magic section is awesome because lots of people check that little tab. For some reason, people love to check it. And you just get this like natural, like you get about 1,000 to 1,500 wish lists per day that you appear on that. Now by Steam's algorithm, you can only appear there 7 days. And so you'll see this graph. This is a graph of like people wish listing the game. That little natural lift, you see that little uptick right at the end where the arrow's pointing? That's the moment they appeared on new popular upcoming. So it's a little trick to get that last boost before you launch. And so it's kind of like the algorithm's tuned to somewhere around the range of 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists. It's not exact, it's not written down somewhere, but I've watched enough games that right around that wish list count, you get in the good zone. And so I kind of think, again, this is not me knowing anything about the algorithm other than enough experience watching games. I kind of think 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists is kind of this gatekeeper, this secret gatekeeper inflection point. And so if you can get your game 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists before launch, you're kind of, the gatekeeper is kind of like loosening the chain and letting you into the good zone of the club. I don't go to clubs, so I don't know if they call it the good zone. Maybe the VIP section, that's not quite right. I don't go to clubs, so I just call it the good zone. Anyway, it's not exact, but again, remember, it's conversion rate. So if you have 10,000 really crappy wish listers, maybe it's like some bot farm that you created, it doesn't matter, it's the wish list. But again, there's a pretty good correlation between 5,000 to 10,000 wish lists and getting into that new and trending, okay? So if you're double I or triple I games, you gotta really stretch for it. You know, if you have a big team that needs to really sell a lot more copies, we're looking more at the 50,000 to 100,000. You know, those are for the higher tier games. Those games get that double I to triple I level. You get a lot more wish lists. So if you're at the 50, 100,000, you're in really good straits. That's really good going into launch. So I need to take a quick water break because my throat. So I blog about all this stuff. I'm not done. I just need to take a water break. I'm not done, but while you're waiting for me to take this drink, howtomarketagame.com/free, I give a book away. I think you actually got it in your registration packet, this free book. But that's also how you register for my free weekly newsletter where I tell you about all this stuff, all this research, what the magic 5,000 to 10,000 secret bouncer is. That's where I tell you. So while I'm taking this little water break, feel free to sign up there. Just head over, type in your information. I'm not a spammer, don't worry. Okay, I'm back. I hope you signed up. Really good, thank you. Okay, wish lists are important. You've learned the lesson, you know about the conversion, about its cash and all that. So really, how do I get them? Okay, now, basically months to performance, promotion and all that kind of stuff. It's not, hey, how do I do it in the last 3 weeks or all that? It's a long-term thing that you have to think about right from the beginning. This is that chart from that Rift Breaker Simon Carlos article. This is their game, and they highlighted every single peak in their promotion and the kind of things that got them those peaks. Peaks are important. You'll see a lot of people when they do postmortems for games point out all the peaks when they got thousands of wish lists in a day. That's important. But another thing that kind of is boring and that people don't talk about it is this valley. It's kind of the valley. It's the people between the peaks. And those are very important. These are these periods. Let me just show you again. These are these periods between the big events. And my suggestion is we really need to make sure that we have a good number of wish lists that just on a natural, boring ass day when you're not doing any promotion, you still get a lot of wish lists organically. And I'm going to kind of show you how to kind of make the most out of these troughs. We'll get to the peaks, the red peaks, but let's talk about the nice boring troughs, okay? Okay, so to understand how these troughs work, you kind of have to understand how people shop on Steam. First, they look at your capsule. So the capsule is the little image. And it's like a little image that summarizes your game with a title. Steam calls them a capsule. They're really just kind of like the cover to your book or something, but it's for your game. And that counts as an impression. And then if people think that's interesting, they click that image, and then it takes you to your Steam page if they clicked on your capsule image. And then they scan your Steam page to determine, ooh, is this game the one I want? And if they want it, they click wishlist. Now, Steam provides statistics for 1, 2, 3, and 4. They give you the stats there. They give you all those numbers. I'm going to run through it again in visual format. Again, Steam is chock-a-block full of these kind of capsule images. Here's an example of a Steam page. See all these images? Those are capsule images. And so if they see one that's interesting, like, oh, look at that inside, that looks neat, and they click it, that counts as an impression and a click-through. Now they hit your page, and this is called a view. And again, that'll increment a number. And with impressions, even if it just is loaded on the page somewhere, Steam will count that as a +1 on impressions. And then if they hit your page, that's a +1 on view. And then if they click that wish list, that counts as a wish list. So again, Steam provides stats for all these. Now, here's why I bring this up in the troughs. Okay, I found 2 games. They were very nice, and they gave me their numbers. You should wish list these games, only if you intend to buy them. But I found these guys, these 2 developers, and they were willing to share their numbers. And just by happenstance, their impression rate is almost exactly the same. This is a normal ass day. They weren't running any big streamer promotion or something. And they each one had about their capsule, which I've included there, got about 35,000 to 32,000 impressions. This is over a week, right? Almost the same, as close as you can get on Steam. And then I had them show me the rest of their stats. And if you look at how many people then saw that image, then visited the page, then wish listed it, you can kind of see their conversion rates. Now, Omen Exito, the one on the right, had 6.7% of people see the image and then click on Omen Exito. Lo-Fi Ping Pong had 9.6% of people see that image and then click it. Now you're going to be like, well, 3%, that's pretty close, close enough with hand grenades and everything. And then the number of people who actually saw the page and wishlisted it, Omen Exito had 2.7 of the people who looked at the Steam page clicked the wishlist button, whereas Lo-Fi Ping Pong had 4.7% look at the page and then click the wishlist button. Now, you're like 2%, what's 3%, just a little bit here and there. They're pretty similar, right? But this occurs thousands and thousands of times. And if you do the math, it's almost double, what I did was I extrapolated. Let's say it continues at this same rate of conversion. Over time, Lo-Fi Ping Pong's slight advantage and 2% here, 3% there converts to 8,372 wish lists. That's like twice as many, theoretically, than Omen Exito. So, and this is them not doing anything. This is just their page running out there on Steam, just collecting wish lists without doing anything. As you can see, it's very important that you get a good conversion rate throughout your funnel because it adds up. It's like compound interest. So I'm going to show you how to boost these resting percentages. The first one is your capsule image. I got to tell you, this is so super important. I follow a lot of indies just show me their numbers because I talk a lot about stuff, and super helpful, super nice indies share me their numbers. And this guy who made the game Dwarven Valley, on the left, he had this old Steam image. This was his old capsule image. And he decided, Chris writes about capsules all the time. I'm going to change it. So he improved his capsule image and to this one on the right. That's his new one. And immediately, he saw his numbers tick up, both the number of views and the wish list, just by changing his capsule image. And I got to say, it does look a lot more professional on the right than it does on the left. Now, I can't give you aesthetic choices on why these work. You got to try it. But improving your capsule image is like the best money you can spend. If you are a solo dev and you only have a couple $100s to spend here and there, hire a good artist to make your capsule image. Let me give you some tips. You want your target audience to say, yes, I love strategy games. I want to get a strategy game. And if this capsule shows up and your game kind of looks strategy game-like, you want your capsule to scream that. So what I recommend is look at games that are in your genre that are popular and just see what kind of capsules they do. Look at the style and show those with the artist that's going to do your artwork. And you got to kind of be in their thing because you're trying to, like, in their genre, in their zeitgeist. You kind of want to be similar to them. I know it sounds weird to tell you to copy your competition. Thing is, it's not really competition. It's more like you're trying to tell people, I'm very similar to this game that you love. Try my game. Don't try and show this like avant-garde deconstruction of what these capsules are. You really want them to be very similar. What I recommend is hiring specific artists who have made other popular capsules. It's a very special art form to make capsule images. And what I recommend is find capsules that you think represent the genre and see if you can, who did the art, and see if you can contract them too. Again, just because your mother-in-law's brother is good at art doesn't mean that guy's going to be good at actually making capsule art. It's a very special breed of person that can make compelling capsule art. So find somebody that's compelling. Now, the reason capsules are so important is it gets people to hover over them. And Steam has this thing where this is an actual video of a person I recorded viewing Steam. What happens is they hover their mouse over, and then all of a sudden this pop-up comes up. And they sit and they read what's on this pop-up. And one of the most important things is the screenshots. Notice how there's 4 screenshots that kind of cycle through. Your first 4 screenshots are very important at telling what your game is. So you have to pick carefully what 4 images are at the top and what are there. So see how this one has 4 different screenshots? You want very different screenshots. Here's some tips. If your screenshots look similar, people will think, well, your game doesn't have much depth. I've seen everything in 4 screenshots. So you want to be very diverse, show different aspects of your games. You want to show your core gameplay loop. People want to understand the genre. They want to see things that look like, you know, if you're making an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter, you should show a third-person view with people like firing a gun. Don't show like a cutscene that doesn't show what the game is. And fake screenshots where it's like a beautiful render that doesn't show the gameplay does not really tell people about your game accurately. So they're not going to like that. The next aspect of Steam to get that kind of median wish list boost during the resting period are tags. Tags are kind of a subtle thing, subtle art form, and they're the metadata that Steam knows what type of game you are. Ironically, Steam doesn't know what type of game you have unless you tell them. They can't like intuit just based on things what it is. You have to use tags to say, I'm making a rogue light. I'm making an adventure game, a puzzle game, whatever it is, you need to tell them. And you do that through tags. Now, the tricky part is it's one of those kind of like rabbit things where it's they don't tell you exactly what it is. A lot of people put indie because they're making indie games. Those aren't the right kind of tags because they're too broad. You actually want to be very specific. And let me show you an example. Again, somebody shared some data with me. They had a game called Absolute Territory, and they tweaked their tags. They refined and they tested every week. They would test their tags, throw out ones that didn't convert, try new ones, watch the data for a while. After doing this tuning, even though if you'll notice their click-through rate went way up to 12.84%. This is the number of people who saw the tags or saw their capsule image and clicked it, because when you hover, you see the tags. And if you notice, they really boosted the actual number of visits, even though they got a little less traffic, because Steam's kind of noisy, you get different traffic. But this was all by just tuning the tags, optimizing what worked, what didn't. Let me kind of give you some examples of things that help when you're doing your tags. First, if you're going to your game, go over to Steam, check out your game. Do you have that indie tag? See that little indie tag? That's like the default setting. Every single game has the indie tag by default. And guess what? If that is one of your top 5 tags, the first 5 are the most popular or the most determinant of your game. If you've got those, that's a problem because Steam doesn't know what type of game you have. It's like saying, you know, the guy with a shirt. You know, most guys wear shirts. So it doesn't define what your game is. You have to be more specific. What I recommend is go to those top 5 games, you know, the games that are most similar to yours, that are very popular, and look at those tags, like do an assessment, see what tags they have, and add the same tags. Again, you want Steam to recommend your game right next to their game. So go do that tag research. And it is a bit of an art form. There's no one way to do it. You have to just every week tune your tags, see if the traffic went up, change it, the next week, see if your traffic went down. And you just kind of keep tuning the tags that you opt in and opt out, and then it'll get, you'll see this increase. It's a long-term game. Other things that you want to do. Once they've clicked on your page, you need to make that Steam page just look very good. So you have to be crystal clear what type of game you have. And you want your game to have this aura of quality, being expensive. I call it expensive, and being pretty, just visually attractive. Visuals really sell the game. For example, Art of Rally is a very beautiful Steam page. It's a beautiful game, but I think this game has a really good Steam page. It kind of has that essence, that beauty to it. And let me show you a couple things too that really improve it. One is the trailer. Fans check out screenshots, but they'll also go to the trailer. But the thing that they do is I've watched them, observed them when they were shopping. They click through the Steam trailer, like they'll just scrub through it really fast instead of just sitting there folding their hands and just watching it like it's a movie. They don't. And the reason they do that is because most trailers are bad and they don't show gameplay. Remember I said people want to know the genre and what type of game they're looking at? They look for clues about what the genre is. And they only get that genre not by cutscenes, not by beautiful pans of the environment. They get it by watching literal gameplay. And so, as you can see, I went to a couple games on Steam. I looked at the Doom trailer, 30 seconds for that trailer before they show action, like actual gameplay. It's a lot of like panning of zombies and explosions, pre-rendered explosions. Dead or Alive 2 has all these cinematics. It takes them like 37 seconds to get to actual gameplay. And I'm like, okay, what does Valve do? Because Valve knows their platform, right? And they've got a couple games. What do their trailers look like? So if you look at Valve, I went to Half-Life Alyx, actual gameplay is shown in 6 seconds. Dota Underlords, gameplay in 4 seconds. I cannot emphasize this enough. Go to your Steam page, watch your trailer, scrub until you see literal hands-on controller gameplay. How long? You better be within 10 seconds. And Valve's 6 and 4 seconds are because they showed logos. I'd even cut those out. Get the gameplay within 2 seconds. You don't need all that stuff. People want to see gameplay. They're trying to determine what type of game it is. If Valve does it, guess what? It's probably a good idea. Other thing is screenshots. You want to show literal, actual gameplay. That's what players want to see. This is a screenshot. These are some screenshots from a game. These are all pre-rendered cutscenes. They tell you nothing about what type of game it is. This is a strategy game. You couldn't tell. It looks like it's some sort of like, I don't know, Western set in China, but it's actually like an RTS real-time battling game. It's a strategy game, but you couldn't tell that from the screenshots only because I told you that's a bad idea. You need actual screenshots of actual gameplay. Your short description. So there's a little description that describes the game. Your goal here is to show genre. What do you do? How am I controlling the character? That's what you want to tell them. I've watched players, because I watch people shop on Steam. I saw people who love story-based games. They love, visual novels, horror games with story rich. When they read the short description and they see lore, they go blah, 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 blah. They literally say blah, 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 because they're like scanning and skipping over the story bits. In your short description, don't talk about lore. Don't tell people about the 7 Keys of Amtuzler and the Dark Lord and it's a world wrought in horror. Don't say that. Let me show you. The white glove is this game, Phantom Doctrine. I would improve their short description here. As you can see, this is what I'm talking about. The year is 1983. The world teeters on the verge of destruction as a Cold War tightens its icy grip. East or West, trust no one, question everything. The fate of humanity rests in your hands as you pit spy versus spy in technical Phantom Doctrine. You don't know what type of game that is. There's no descriptions of the gameplay. How am I controlling? This could be any game. It could be a first-person shooter. It could be a RTS game. It could be a visual novel. There's no clues as to how you actually play the game in that description. Dead Cells, on the other hand, is kind of the rabbit under the table. They get it right. Dead Cells is roguelike, Metroidvania, action platformer, 2D Souls-like combat, no checkpoints, kill, die, learn, repeat. You get a sense of how the game plays, its actual mechanics. That's what you want in your short description. Cut all the story bits, cut it out. I know you're proud of it, but shoppers do not care about it. They will when they play the game, not when they're shopping for it. Long descriptions. So it's actually called About This Game. It's underneath everything on the Steam page. It's this giant block of text that Steam gives you. This is an actual screenshot I grabbed of another game's long description. Way too much text, way too much. Nobody's going to read that. Nobody does. Now, what some enterprising, really smart designers have done is they use this blank space that Steam gives you, which allows you to embed images, to embed animated GIFs, put very big visuals. Look at the Fall Guys Steam page. It's really good what they do with their About Us section. They use it to kind of, and I didn't put animated GIFs here, but these are all full motion. It's playing the game. What you want to show is the forward core loop and the big talking points about your game. And look at how they've done it. They said massive online pandemonium, competitive and cooperative, and then they list all the things under it. So you just see all what's going on in the game without having to click, without having to push play. It just hits you and it comes in. That's how you do the About This section. So all those little things that you do kind of improve your baseline level. Like if you didn't do any promotions, any marketing, it's just baseline promoting your game. And that's kind of what we've got here. That's going to improve that section there. So a lot of people say, well, what's a good conversion rate? What should my resting kind of heart rate be? It depends on your genre. Every genre, like I said, some genres are very popular. Some genres are not so popular on Steam. That drives a lot of what that resting heart rate is. The way I like to think about it is don't try and compare yourselves to others. Just compare yourself week to week basis. Make those tiny tweaks that I talked about. There's a lot of room for creativity in all those tips I gave you. Make one change, just one change, and watch for a week. See what changed. And do it during a period when you're not doing big promotion. Just tiny tweaks. And what you're trying to do is improve your rate week to week. That's how you really get a good sense of whether this thing is working. That's what real progress means. Okay, now everybody wants the peaks because the peaks are fun. You're Mr. Popular, you're Mrs. Star of the Ball. So let's talk about how to get those peaks. Now, when you create a game, you have these kind of like, I consider them kind of like tokens. Like you're automatically given these bag of kind of imaginary tokens that you can cash in to get some press attention or social media attention or other things. For example, when you launch your Steam page, you can tell people like, my new next game is live now on Steam. You can just alert that, and some press people will pick up on that. Now, Steam page launch, if this is your first game or even your second game, that's not big news. You're probably not going to get a lot out of that. But if you're a very famous studio, if you are a big publisher, you can get traffic out of that. Just don't expect a lot if you're new. The other things are the different trailers, like an announced trailer. When you have an open call for betas, when you want to announce, hey, I'm collecting beta testers, sign up here. That's a promotion token that you can. And these aren't like buttons that you push on Steam that says, use my token. These are just metaphorical tokens that you can use for press and saying, hey, we're doing our beta. And some press people will write about that. When you release a demo, because Steam has a demo system where you can upload a segment of your game and have people download and play it. Your first gameplay trailer, your release date announcement, then the launch trailer, and then the actual trailer for the actual start of your game. All these things are kind of things that you can kind of cash in, and some press people will take it up. And basically, that's what it is. But all those things are kind of white glove a little bit if you're hoping entirely on press. If you go through, this is the chart for all the peaks that Rift Breakers did. If you look at all the peaks, only 2 of them were related to press. One was a Eurogame preview of the game, and the other one was a PC Gamer trailer reveal. The press doesn't as much anymore give those big spikes. So there's other things that you've got to rely on. It's just not as, people are hoping the press is what's going to do it. It's not so much the press, it's other things. Let me show you. All these other things that come through, so here's the full list. One of them, there's the press. This one, all of these are platforms from other people. So for example, Steam Daily Deal. Rift Breakers had other popular games before they did this Rift Breaker, the developers did. So they reached out to Steam. Steam gave them what's called a daily deal, which means they put you basically on the front page. That was a big spike. They had the Summer Festival, which you can give your demo. Steam just is going to be doing another festival in February. Unfortunately, deadlines passed to apply for that in December, but they're doing it seasonally. So that's a big one. They did a Steam developer sale. Again, they worked with Steam and they said, hey, can we promote our games? Steam said, yeah. Secret gatekeeper. They said, yeah, and they put them on the front page, got more stuff. Gamescom, they applied to a conference since the COVID time. Steam is allowing convention holders to take over Steam's front page and feature games that way. So the Gamescom was one. The other one was like PAX and PAX East. Digital Dragons was another one. There was a tower defense sale. Again, if you have a tag called like tower defense, your game can opt into a sale. So all of these things have nothing to do with the press. They have to do with the platform. And they're very, very popular to get that spike of traffic. So example, here's Digital Dragons. When the games, if you apply for Digital Dragons, and if you get into Digital Dragons, they have a store takeover, and then games get featured like Liberator, or what's it called, Game Deck. I would work on the text on that capsule. For example, these daily deals, like Time Spinner got a 50% off deal. You have to negotiate with Steam to get these. For an example, Adam Kroll, who's one of the lead people behind Steam, mentioned in this tweet, he said, this other developer who applied and got a daily deal said they 6 weeks before they got the daily deal, they explained what they were planning for the event, and they talked to Steam and they said, hey, do you have any DD openings, which is daily deal? Steam said, sure. Now, you have to be a pretty popular game, already launched, to get these daily deals. But again, you're in communication with the platform. That's what you need. You can't just sit back and just like lob tweets at people. You have to be known to Steam and really be a good member of the community. A lot of times when I ask indies, what did you do to promote your game? I say, I tweeted about it and I contacted the press. Unfortunately, those are both white glove. As I mentioned, the press doesn't do much. And as we saw with like the Among Us, tweeting just doesn't have that much of a connection. And let me show you exactly. This is kind of what I meant by Among Us. Their launch tweet had 6 retweets. It's so sad. Like, you can go back and find the original one. It's June 18th, 2018. It's funny. I look back at it. It's so cute. Twitter just doesn't. You'll notice that in that big long thing from the spikes from Rift Breakers, none of them were like, we tweeted about our game. Twitter just doesn't have that. You post a link and then everybody clicks on it. Twitter just doesn't work that way. Really, Twitter is not about promoting fans. It's about promoting to business people. Here's the secret rabbit under the table. This is how you do it. Somebody described it to me. Twitter's actually the real LinkedIn for video game developers. It's where you talk business. A lot of new indies think that Twitter is where you connect to fans, like these guys in elaborate cosplay. That's not who your fans are on Twitter. That's not what you use Twitter for. Use Twitter to network. Think of it as a game conference, where a 24-hour, 365 game conference where you're networking with people, making connections with other developers. Your audience on Twitter are these type of people. They have production designer. They're the people who own the platforms. They're recruiters. They're scouts. They're the people who make the decisions for these platforms. Like I mentioned, Adam Kroll. Again, you're looking for people who have in their Twitter bios the word scout, platform manager, producer, developer relations, developer outreach. These are the people that you should be talking to on Twitter. They're the ones that can get you far. These biz dev folks, I call them biz dev, hang out on Screenshot Saturday, pitch your game, post on there, post your game on there. And the reason you post there is not to have fans find you, because fans actually don't really check Screenshot Saturday. A couple of them do, but not many. Really, that's where publishers look for new games to sponsor. They're looking for unique experiences, high quality games, genres popular on the platform. Again, remember, you got to understand what genres people have on those platforms. They're hungry for good games. They want to do it. Seriously, I consult for a publisher. Sure enough, I check Screenshot Saturday, but on Saturday I'll see a couple cool games. Guess what? Monday morning when I log into Slack and look at their like recommendation, when other people on the publisher say, "Hey, did you guys see this game?" Guess what? I saw that game because of Screenshot Saturday. Publishers are browsing those hashtags. Again, your audience is publishers. You want business people to be looking at what you have. It's not the fans. So basically, if we look at all the in development, get your page right up away. Don't think that you're Beyonce or some of these Taylor Swift who can just launch an album out of nowhere. You are not Beyonce. You cannot do it. As I said, these are these white glove tactics that people think that they can do. Even there's no one thing that works. And the reason this is why is even if you get covered by an awesome streamer, at most you're going to get like 2,000 wish lists. A viral Reddit post, 1,000 wish lists. Remember, your goal is at least 5,000. If you can't even get one of these things, launching on day one is not going to get them. You need to chain all of these together over time, over and over and over. It's a long rolling build-up. Okay, so you got this big build-up. You're doing your launch. I'm going to go through this real quick. really, after you launch, is continuous development. Now, one of the things that people forget about Among Us, they did a long time. This is their launch, and this is like their last little spike. Imagine if they quit after that. They're like, we launched, we're good. Okay, let's move on to our next game. They would have missed out on the real hockey stick that occurred at the end. So continuous development is a new thing. One developer that I really like are the Tresay brothers, fans of IGB podcast. You probably heard Corey on. They upload their game updates like once a week. Look at that. This is their Steam page. Update 239. That's insane. Developers on Steam really do well when they do frequent updates. So all this stuff, all this marketing on Steam it is a magic trick, but just have that conscious when you're outside of the developers looking at what they did. Most of it is a magic trick to make you think it's working. There's a whole nother world under the table that you don't get to see just looking out. So go contact the developers, talk to them, say, how did you do that? And you might think, oh, they did this awesome tweet. No, it wasn't the tweet. It was the fact that they did a business development relationship with Alden. Then they got it. Then they did the tweet. And that's not the thing. The tweet was the white glove. Talking to Alden was the secret rabbit under the table. So that's my bit. Once again, that's how you sign up. I'm ready for questions. Let's do it. I'm going to get another drink, but while you're waiting, sign up. You can follow me on Adventure Mountain. I'm not going to buy your game because I'm a game developer. I don't typically buy games. But remember, Twitter is for business development. So talk to me about how I can help you get your Steam page up, tips to improve. Sign up for my newsletter. Once a week, I send out good tips and research that I've done on Steam. Hope you have a good day. I'm going to stick around for questions. Let me know.
All right. Hey, Chris, I'm going to pop up some questions here for you.
Okay.
Since we've got 5 or 6 minutes left. From Mr. Nightwolf, is it possible to put the strategy label on your game even if it is not what is expected? There's the standard RTS, but then there's also XCOM games like Mutant Year Zero and D&D, like Divinity and Baldur's Gate. After that, there's also stealth games, which could technically fall under strategy. As it is, Vampire probably could land under strategy, at least social strategy.
This is an excellent question. Here's the deal. You do not want to lie with your tags. And here's the reason is you want to be accurate. A lot of people think, oh, if I just add the most popular tag, then I'm going to get a bunch of traffic to my page. It doesn't work that way because what you're going to do, let's say you're making a platform and you add strategy because you have to be strategic with your jumping. No, because strategy players are looking for strategy. There's an old business saying like, it's okay to throw a ballet. It's okay to throw a rock concert, but don't throw a ballet and advertise it as a rock concert. Don't do that. You want to be super accurate with your tags. In fact, I say be more accurate with tagging rather than trying to grab extra traffic. And again, it's hard, but you just kind of tweak. You might add the strategy tag and like, ooh, that's not right. The people who come for the strategy tag aren't my audience. Let me ditch the strategy tag. Let me add this tag. Oh, that worked. That I added the tactical tag. The tactical tag worked. That's how you should approach tagging. Don't overthink it.
Okay, we've got another question from Port Luca here on Twitch. With the Gatekeeper, how is it that free-to-play games get featured on Steam?
That's tricky. I don't do as many free-to-play games, but I think free-to-play games work a lot at scale. And so they do a lot of stuff where they will work with Steam to get that traffic. A lot of them use tagging, just natural traffic, where they're out there. They don't get to use that token of discounting and doing that sort of thing. They use a lot of, because free-to-play games typically have a lot of updates, like the Tresay brothers. When you update your game frequently, you kind of get a little golden halo from Steam. They like to give traffic when you do visibility rounds. That's one of the things. I didn't talk about visibility rounds, but if you do a major content update or a season in the free-to-play parlance, you can promote that. You can do discounts on your DLC and get promotions that way. So those are the kind of like levers that you can pull if you're doing a free-to-play game. But again, free-to-play is really hard because you have to have a lot of people coming in to kind of use that traffic.
Okay, here we go. This is from Aki from 80K Games. Does it make sense to launch a game with a launch discount?
Yes, I like it. Some people don't. I think it's good. It just kind of gives that. So again, you're trying to get that like a lot of conversion right at the front. In other words, you're trying to get as much cash in that first week when everybody's excited about it. And the reason I like, some people argue against it. I like it just because it has that urgency, like, ooh, I'm thinking of buying it. I don't know. And you're like, well, this is the last week. You got 24 hours and then the price goes up. So get on it, pay your money. I always like to induce a little bit of urgency and the fear of missing out on people that just gets them to buy. And a launch discount kind of does that because launch discounts end, and you can advertise that, like send out to your newsletter and say, hey, everybody, 24 hours left. Now's your last chance before the price goes back up. So that's why I like it. Some people think that, hey, the people who wishlisted are going to buy it anyway. I can see both arguments, but personally, I like to do a launch discount, but keep it cheap. Don't discount too deeply. You want to do a nice low discount, like 20%.
Right. I'm going to do this comment here before Whitlock was talking about all this stuff on Steam. He says, I'm surprised devs don't know these things about Steam page. Seems pretty common sense, especially because they are also gamers and browse Steam. A lot of the time you don't you're so inside of what you're doing. Like when you were talking about having gameplay on the Steam videos, I was telling Jay, I'm like, that is exactly what I do. I look at it, and if it's not gameplay, I just either scroll through it or I go to the next video. So I thought that was really funny. Sometimes you're inside of what you're doing so much you don't actually pay attention, so probably when building your Steam page, think about how you look at games, right? And then what is the most efficient, what do you look for, and that kind of stuff.
It's totally true. Like, watch other people do it, because you subconsciously do this stuff, and it's not obvious. I know it sounds obvious when I read it to you, but I used to think, oh, hide UI. Don't show menus in your gameplay screenshots because menus are ugly. People want that. And then I did the study, and I heard everybody was like, "What's the UI? Huh? This game doesn't have UI." And I was like, "Wait, why do you want to see UI?" And they were like, "Oh, it tells me what type of game it is because I can tell based on the menu system what type of game it is." I'm like, "Oh, of course." So you really need to study your audience. Watch people. You don't know. Nobody knows anything. So watch other people buy stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You just got to pay a lot of attention, or talk to Chris. He'll tell you exactly what's up. All right, this is from Octo4096 on Twitch. Hey, Chris, big fan of HTMAG. What are some good strategies to get wish lists during the middle development that cost very little or is free? Specifically for that period after you have announced your game and showed off your first trailer, but before you're really ready to launch and are missing some content.
Yeah, it's hard, and you have to be real creative here. One thing that I recommend is reach out, and it sounds counterintuitive. Reach out to other people making similar games to you and ask to exchange audiences with them. So for instance, find other people who are kind of at the same stage of development. Like if you're making a first-person shooter game, and you're just a small indie, don't try and reach out to id making Doom or something. You're like a little tick to them. But reach out to other indies that you've researched on Screenshot Saturday to find out other indies making other first-person shooter games, and reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm making a game, very similar to you. They're not your competition. Reach out to them and say, hey, what if we did a cross stream? Like we both stream each other's games, and I tell my audience to go to your game, and your audience go to my game. Trust me, folks, you are not in competition with them. If you see somebody else making a game similar to yours, don't say, they've scooped me. That's not how this market works. You want to cross-promote your audiences. So that's one way. And also kind of, if you build that network, they can recommend things. Like there's so many competitions and shows going on. It's hard to keep track of them all. And if you have friends who are making similar games, they can say, hey, I just heard about a first-person shooter sale coming up in March. Be sure to sign up. Oh, thanks, dude. Thanks for telling me about that. So you want that kind of like community of people who are similar to you in your game, because they'll find out things and you kind of share knowledge and be good. Give back if you hear something. You're not in competition with fellow indies. So that's what I would recommend. Reach out, literally talk to people, like tweet at them and stuff. Say hi. So that's what I recommend.
Like I like to play. Like if I get a game that I like and that I see something that's a similar genre, I will just get the other game. You know what I mean? I like that. All right, so we are out of time. So will you hang out in our Discord for a little bit, Chris?
I would love to hang out in your Discord.
Okay, so I know there's more questions, and everyone's got a ton of questions. So if you go into the Indie Game discord.gg/Indie Game Business into the post-session chat, then you can ask Chris questions. There's also the post-session hangout too. You guys can go into voice if you like. But we have some stuff coming up next. Let's see, who do we got next? We have IP licensing for game. And that starts right now. So thank you so much. Thanks so much, Chris.